Howdy chaps, and welcome back to another fantastic episode. Today's episode is a bit of a mixed bag of fish or nuts. So the Commodore wagon is in the workshop. I'll show you that in a second. And we've discovered some stuff that has changed the course a smidgen. It's not too bad, still fixable, but boy, I wish I had a hoist, because, well, I wish you could put the cars on a hoist when you look at them, but you can't, so it's a gamble. But it's okay. It's okay, we'll fix it. Also, we have the XD in the Prime line, so you'll probably get some, in the Prime timeline, you'll probably get some XD footage today. I'm doing one of the last two rust repairs on it, and then it's bodywork and paint for that XD. Hopefully the chap's budget can reach that far. But also we will have a car in very soon, in late September, that's been waiting a very long time. Luckily he's only coming in for a couple of minor things. When I say a long time, I mean he's been waiting a very long time, because the waiting list to get cars fixed here is, I'm just not accepting any for ages because there's just too many. But we have a Dismantling Pantera coming in, which should be a fun little video. That's getting some engine bay supports replaced, because at some point, that's because they're a rear wheel drive, rear mounted Cleveland powered go-kart. It's lost a drive shaft at some point in time, and it's obliterated one of the areas in the engine bay, and it's been dodgied up, so we're going to actually redo it and have it less dodgy. So that's a car that's coming up in the future, so stay tuned for that one. So I'll show you the latest on the Commodore. I mean, I will admit the announcement of that Commodore video has been actually one of the most popular ones for a very long time, and I don't know why, but maybe there's more Holden fans than Ford fans on my channel. Who knows? But anyway, I'll show you what's happened. Okay, so the workshop is a bit cluttered, but it's not too bad. The Commodore wagon, you go, oh, Graham, it's up in the air, what's going on? Wouldn't you like to know? I'm about to tell you. First off, there's the front. I have to admit, these cars are brilliant as far as the ability to dismantle them. Very little holds them together, and they come apart nice. And you can take everything off as a unit, so all the radiator, condenser, fans, everything in one piece. The Rio, the rad support, the washer bottle, all the front wiring. Technically, with the headlights connected, you could have the entire front of the car off in one piece. And then after I took all that off, we wander around here and we go, oh yeah, rail caps are damaged. Yep. And then I was, looking and going, oh yeah, it's not too bad. Realistically, if that's all that was wrong with it, piece of cake, never have to take the motor out. But what I'm going to be doing very shortly, in the next piece of this video, is we're taking the motor out of this car. Because I first looked at here and I was like, there was a bulge here and a bulge here. And I thought, okay, tap that out, got it straight, right, cool. Then I got down here, and if you look there, you'll see there's a bend in the rail. And the only reason I started looking is because when I measured this rail is 5mm further down, or it's probably 4mm than the other one, which made me go, what's going on? And then if you look there, you'll see she's got a pretty good kink in her. And unfortunately, and the next thing is, I'll show you what you have to get, because this is a repairable write-off, right? And that means the insurance company basically decided to pay the owner out of the car rather than have it fixed, because it probably cost too much. And I know that is why the car was written off. There's a bend in the rail, and the rail is a massive job, as you're going to see in the next few videos. Still don't know why they texted up here. That's straight. Unless the thought pattern was that this is an arrow pointing down to here. On this side of the car, there's actually a trim that covers it. You're like, oh, you could almost get away with it on that side, but on this side, there's no trim. So you can see the bend and the kink. Plus, it's down, so... And this car, I will probably sell eventually, and I do not want to sell a car that's even remotely compromised in any way. I can't, in good conscience, sell something that's been dodgily repaired in any way, shape or form. So, the repair procedures, which I'll show you, which, by the way, if you're doing a repairable write-off, you must have if you're going to plan on putting a welder anywhere near a car. Clean my hands. These are repair procedures. Now, these are the GM ones, but when it comes to Holden, they do not give their repair procedures out anymore. They got rid of that, and you have to go through another mob, which you ring up a 1300 number, and they give you an email with a code. You pay $50 to have 72 hours access to the repair procedures, and as you can see, the VIN number for the car is plastered through it, so you can't use it for another time. And if you download the stuff, it actually deletes itself after the 72 hours. So you better get it and print it out what you need as fast as you can. So with the repair procedures, now these are GM, these are the Holden ones. Now this is front. Now it gives you the ability to do the rail replacement in 2 sections if you choose to. If the damage is right at the front of the rail, you can set front compartment side rail sectioning forward of strut tower. Now if you actually, interesting to note, in a crash shop, most good insurance companies will make you make sure that the repairer actually has these handy and that they are following them to the letter. Some insurance companies do not care, so pick your insurance companies wisely. But most crash shops will give the person repairing the car these, which are no joke, basically a how-to guideline. So this is the, so it says disable SRS, and it says, where does it say? All the engine, remove engine assembly. I must have spilt some drink on that. No. And it tells you all the measurements, exactly where to cut, where to join. But unfortunately, I would love to use this one, but my bend is just here, which is just behind it, which makes this completely useless. Well, not useless, but I have it anyway. And it tells you everything you need to know. And if you're taking a car through a Tier 3, which is what the inspection is for a repairable write-off, if you do not have repair procedures, you will not pass, because the mob who check everything want to make sure you did your job properly. So if you don't have access to these and you're planning on doing something that requires welding, you might as well not even bother. You got to have repair procedures, and yeah, it's because it's an industry standard. Now this is the repair procedures for doing the end caps on the rails. It's much shorter than the other ones. It's just drill out your spot welds. So drill out your spot welds, re-weld your spot welds, and spot welding is preferred. But obviously, if you don't have a spot welder, you can use the old MIG. So, and I've got to make sure I've got those and this one. Now this is the sectioning the chassis rail at the strut tower. This is the one we're going to have to do. Basically stripping the car down the same way, but then we have to drill out the spot welds for that bracket. Goes off the datum point, and datum point is a hole that the factory have decided is a good measurement point, and you go forward from that and chop the rail off. So drill out your spot welds, chop the front of the rail off, and then on the inside, on the outside, you move back and then put it on the slice and take a small section off, because you have to stagger the welds, or the joins should I say, and the outside is staggered further back than the inside. So, and then you get your new rail, which I have priced as $757 my price, because I'm a business. So that's how much a new chassis rail from Holden is going to cost. chop it, section it, stick it in, make sure it's all lined up. I'm going to make sure that when I do this that I have my rad support, my Rio, and most of my parts. So basically today I'm just going to yank the motor and trans out and get everything ready, and then when I have all of my parts ready to go, then I will actually tackle the job, so that I can make sure everything, so basically I can trial fit everything before I do a final weld, and make sure everything's all lined up. It's fairly straightforward, and you just put your brackets back on and you got to seam weld it and then reassemble the car. So it's quite literally a how-to guide. If you do not have repair procedures, once again, for a repairable write-off, if you're doing, well, you don't always need them. Repairable write-offs are a funny thing. If you're only replacing body panels, you don't need them. But if you're going to do any welding on your car, you better have them handy. Yeah, most repair procedures can be got from the manufacturer, unless it's GM, which you have to go through a fairly expensive loophole to get paperwork. But I have them, and there they are. That's what they look like, and you have that in your booklet with all your ooh la la and hoo-has for your repair write-off. And these are the up-to-date ones. Ironically, when it comes to VEs, it's exactly the same, but the VFs allow you to do another rail section further up, which is kind of cool. But unfortunately, we're bent a little bit too far back for that, so we will be doing a full rail from the middle of the shock tower. So, time to set up a time lapse and get into it. But I will show you first. Some probably think going, yay, more talking, with a sarcastic tone, but that's life. Now, this is quite a fascinating thing. When I talk about everything is disconnectable, so all your battery cables, that guy, you just undo this, undo a couple of clips, they pull away, everything pulls away, all the wiring, there's nothing on that side. Your heater hoses is back here, they've just got a Jesus clip that you undo here, and they literally just pop off. Vacuum line just to clamp, fuel lines, just your normal fuel line disconnectors. You know, engine computer, I will cover this up when I'm doing any welding or grinding, because I don't want the computer to have a hissy fit. I may even remove it from the engine bay to protect it. I've actually got this covering up the fuse box, because the entire top of the fuse box unclips and you can take all the fuses out in one go. But yeah, lovely with the fact that I've got my struts undone, got my brake calipers back and cable tied up. So in the next little while we're going to drop out the engine, the trans, the front suspension, all of this as a unit to the ground, and then drag it out. And then eventually we'll have to actually disconnect this aircon pipe, because it's actually in the way from the junction point up there, and pop out that and move that over there. So and I think that line is part of that one. So yeah, everything just unclips and you just tuck it towards the engine bay, and you can just unbolt it off. Well, you're not unbolting anything, you're just dropping the entire engine and trans out in one go. So yeah, as you can tell, there's not much to this car. So this side, this rail is straight and lovely. I've just got to replace the cap on it and we're good to go on this side. This rail is going to be joined in somewhere here, very close to that laser joint, but I'm pretty sure we're just in front of it, because I'm pretty sure, according to, now I could be slightly wrong, but this is normal steel, this is high strength steel, and just behind this seam here, which is a laser weld, that piece of chassis rail is ultra high strength steel. So, you know, strong, so pretty tough, really strong, super tough. If you can bend the rail back there, the car's very much upset. But these are all, you know, sacrificial points, and obviously, as you can tell, the whole purpose of these are bend points to soften impacts. So not only are they there for strength, but they're points of where the thing will fold. It's just a bit annoying that when this got hit, it got shoved down slightly, because if it got bent inwards, which it did a little bit, you could have got away with tapping that out and pushing it out. But the fact that it got pushed down and put a kink in the bottom of that rail, that's what did it in. So it's obviously been pushed down over that bolt, luckily. But interestingly enough, the outside is fine. It's got a little bulge here, but it's not too bad. You almost could have got away with it, but you can't. I'm not willing to. So well chaps, the motor, trans and front suspension are out. I would technically call that the power pack. That's all of the running, most of the running gear in one lump. Looks difficult, slightly awkward due to not having a hoist or anything like that, but not impossible to do. All of 6 bolts hold the cradle in, so 1, 2 and 3. A little bit of jiggling with 3 trolley jacks, and then eventually this wheel dolly, because obviously the motor sits on the front, the cross member is all there, but the transmission hangs sort of off its spikes by the body effectively. So bit of jiggle work. I'm thinking putting it back in is going to be a particularly unfun job, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Now we can see the offending unit. I just love how much this car's taken apartable, if that's even a word. Because you just undo up here, the aircon pipe's out, bolt, nut, done. All out of the way. Now the join, as far as I'm aware, well, first off we'll look at the bend. Whoop! There's actually a bend here and here, and you can see it tapers down slightly. So we got ultra high strength steel here, high strength steel here, normal steel there. Generally you're not allowed to cut into this stuff, so according to the procedures it looks like one of the joints is actually going to be like just here, but I will check, because you pretty much have to go via the instructions, which is the repair method, and if it's on this side that's what it says, if it's on this side that's what it says, but generally that's where the two types of steel join together. But I mean, it could have changed, because those are obviously current and up-to-date instructions, and it has been a few years since I've been in the crash game, so I mean, it used to be you're not allowed to go past that, but it could have changed. But we're basically, there's a plate on the inside of here that's part of this, and you drill out these spot welds here, probably on the inside, and that stays on here. There's a join here, there's a staggered join about here on the back side, and then you do welds, and then seam weld it through there, and then redo those ones, and your rail's done. And then obviously if you're just doing the cap, it's like 6 welds on either end. But that's as far as we're going with this until we have some replacement sections. And actually you can see that, if you look carefully, the rail has a bend just here where it kicks around instead of going dead straight. So that one's dead. This one's lovely. Not bent at all. This car took the hint, majority of the hit on this side, which is a bit of a bummer, but that's life. So rail cap on this side, half a rail on this side, paint, blow in a bit of paint, and then put this junk back in here. And of course we do have a little bend here and a little tweak here, but that's virtually nothing anyway. And then obviously guards, bonnet and panels. So that's as far as we're going with the Commodore. Now let's jump onto the X2, where we have started one of the last rust repairs was in the A-pillar here. So just drilled out the spot welds through here, slice, flick off. I've got to do another patch on the inside here, replace all that, and then weld that in, and then do a little fold, make a new piece to sit in there. That's done, and then we've got a little hole down the floor there, and then that's it. Oh, and of course I've got to grind down, you know, welds from when I did the roof, but we won't bore you with that, because this video is probably going to be pushing the friendship as far as entertainment value goes. And of course we do have two issues on either side to fix here, because at some point this car's lost its bonnet and it's flipped up, and the hinges have torn their way into this panel here, so that's fun. So I'll get stuck into doing a bit of this and we'll catch up in a jiffy. Virtually pretty simple. Clean up a bit more, cut a small patch, put a small patch, grind, make the outer piece. But I'll walk you through this one, fairly simple. I'll cut out the rust and then use that as a template to make the next piece. Alrighty kids, the first piece is done, fairly straightforward. Basically cut this out, put it onto another piece of steel, trace around it, cut it out, and I've got to zap up that little bit in there. But job done. Fairly straightforward. So now we've got to just make up another piece with a fold in it that fits in there. Right, so that's the repair done. I know I didn't go into extreme detail with it, but it was horrifically simple. Cut the rust, find the rust, fix the rust, weld the rust. We're actually not welding the rust, we're welding fresh steel. But, job done. So, that is one of the last bits of rust on this car. Very simple, horrifically simple actually. And then we just got that one down there. I'm not even going to bother filming that one because it's just a plate, cut and weld. And then I think we'll go over here and round out the video. Right chaps, now it's been a while. Now you see this old boy floating around in the background of videos all the time. So I thought it was time to introduce him. Just give me a sec to turn the microphone around. Speak.
Oh, okay. Well, I've been helping Graham for several years now, setting up the business, and I do a lot of the running around so we don't have to shut doors. So I go to the paint shop and car parts place and all those other places. But I've been watching this engine removal here, and it reminds me of my Air Force days when we used to take gun packs set it out of Mirages. So even the trolley is almost the same shape as the old Catax that we used. So same principle, fully armed, ready to go, one out, one in. And this is quite interesting, this, because the car itself is immaculate where it's come out, which is amazing. And this has got to be like Leopard tank engines, just a power pack. And that's technology for you. Just disconnect everything and pull it out, put it back in, connect it up.
Yes, so if most people didn't know, this old boy has spent quite a long time in the Air Force prior to being a lackey. Run through your career.
I joined the Air Force in 1964 as an apprentice. At the age of 16, I was an armament fitter. I served in the bomb dump at Kingswood, cleaning 500-pound bombs. Then I had an exchange posting to Williamtown, and I was fortunate enough to be posted to Malaysia with 3 squadron, and we took the whole squadron to Butterworth in 1968. 20 Mirages, all brand new, straight off the production line. I spent the next 2.5 years in Malaya working on Mirages, and we did gunnery, bombing, all the stuff, and probably the fittest I've ever been in my life, actually.
And now you're just weak.
And then I came back onto P3B Orions. Was fortunate enough to get a commission into the equipment branch, and I was an equipment officer and logistics officer, 492 squadron maintenance on Orions. Where else I finished up in support command. I then moved across to the reserve, where I was the executive officer of 24 squadron for a number of years, and I even got called back on full-time duty and finished up in guided weapons, pyrotechnics and countermeasures and all the good bangy stuff, and eventually on the air warfare destroyer as a finance officer. And then I thought, well, maybe I've had enough after 46 years with defence, and here we are. But we're not vegetating, got plenty to do, and keeping the brain alert. Now, watching TV, give yourself something to do.
Alright, tell them the most exciting aircraft related thing that you saw with the Mirage.
Well, probably from the back seat. I had an hour-and-a-half flight in a Mirage from Butterworth down across Malaysia, down off Singapore. We did a range clearance at 350 knots, 50 feet, looking up at coconut trees and looking down on fishing boats. And then we flew around this island, which 3 other Mirages bombed with 500-pound bombs. And we formed up with them, flew back. So that was a highlight. But there was another highlight. It was 1968. When I was at Williamtown, there was a British aircraft carrier off the coast, the Eagle, and one Sunday morning as an exercise they decided to attack the base. And I remember sitting out watching a British Buccaneer, treetop height, disappear behind the tree line with a Mirage upside down following him, and that was pretty exciting.
I might throw in a little photo of what a Mirage is for the people who don't know what it is. It's basically a dart. It's an aircraft in the shape of an arrow.
Yeah, when the burning and turning stuff stops, it assumes a glide characteristic of a house brick, roughly. And because it was a single engine aircraft, we lost probably over the life of the aircraft over 20 aircraft. When we got the Hornets in, they were twin engine, and I think 4 went down over its life. So there's a bit of advantage having 2 engines.
Well, you saw the introduction of the Mirage, and technically the removal of the Mirage from the Air Force.
I actually saw Mirages being built on the production line at Commonwealth Aircraft Corporation in 1965. I remember seeing them in 65 in shiny metal flying around. And yes, some of my guys in 24 Squadron were getting prepared to go to Pakistan when they went out of service at Woomera. So I saw them come and go. I remember going to Avalon watching the arrival of the F-18 Hornets, and now we've got my old squadron's got the F-35 Strike Fighter, and that's pretty noisy.
And your main squadron was 3 Squadron, wasn't it?
Well, that was I was in quite a few squadrons, but 3 Squadrons, my fondest memory, because it was the most exciting time, and nothing like being in a fighter squadron. Fast jets, and there's a few characters as well.
Yeah.
And the other thing that was interesting there was, I remember getting to work one morning, having a compulsory bottle of Coke. While I was standing there, the crash alarm went, and our twin-seater came back, minus its canopy, and it heading south to pick up somebody from Singapore. The canopy imploded, the remnants of it took the helmet off the guy in the back seat, and when the canopy went, the rear vision mirrors went, and the pilot in the front seat still didn't know whether he had a passenger or not. So it was pretty exciting at 8:30 in the morning when that came back. Crash alarms going.
Well, there you go, chaps. That's a bit of an insight to the man who hangs around in the background. He's actually the other half of Graham's Restorations. 9 times out of 10, if you ring up the business, you don't actually speak to me, you talk to him, because I don't like people. Plus I've got so much to do, it's not even funny. So there we go, nice little wrapping out of the episode with staring at this giant hunk of metal. Imagine the scrap value of that. But yes, we will be starting on this very shortly, but it's a case of waiting for some of my finances to recover from the purchase of the vehicle, because I am poor quite frequently. But anyway, hope you've enjoyed it, and see you next one.